And here we go. Here we are. We are back and better than ever with the Week 9 IDP Guys Start show. It's been a couple weeks for me. These guys you all know very well. I'm Michael Segoli, joined here with Ricky Rodriguez as well as Sean Wayans, which I don't think that's your real last name here, Sean. But hey, either way, happy to have you guys. How is everyone doing this morning?
We're doing fantastic, and we're just a couple hours away from 7 hours of commercial-free football. Starts in 2 hours.
How amazing is that? How amazing is just saying that sentence? It's a whole different vibe on Sundays, and we're already having and jumping right into that. How you doing, Sean?
I was doing better, so I looked at the score for the Dolphins-Chiefs game. So,
yeah.
I'm not on high right now, but maybe I'll get back to it.
Germany's not quite getting the back and forth right now as they may have hoped over there, and I believe it's in Frankfurt or is it Munich? I'm not.
It's Frankfurt.
It is Frankfurt. Yeah. So, yeah, not quite getting the game they asked for, but they're getting some Mahomes brilliance at the expense of your Tua Tagovailoa Dolphins. But either way, we have a whole slate of football coming after that game. The 1 o'clock slate for the Eastern time zone, as well as whatever that translates, 10 on the West Coast. You guys know the drill. It's week 9 of the season. But before we get into those start state questions, be sure to drop those in the chat. We're going to be going for a good hour, answering everything that you guys could possibly need. I know our co-owner here, Ricky Rodriguez, has a very special announcement to make.
I actually have 2 announcements to make this morning. The first one is, if you look at our YouTube channel, you might have noticed that it's been rebranded. And so we are beginning the soft launch of our rebrand from idpguys.org, and you'll be seeing us eventually starting to move towards IDP Plus. And we're really excited about the rebranding and so much more to come along with that. I think many of you know that we are more than IDP. We are IDP in offense, and we have some people also contributing on the betting side of things. So we felt like IDP Plus more captured what we're doing and what we'll continue to do as we move forward. So excited about the new rebranding. Eventually, you'll see our web pages head in that direction, more towards this, or in our website, more towards the Super Bowl timeframe. But we're really excited and look forward to having you join us there. The second big announcement, and some of you may have seen it on Twitter, is the offensive points team of Joe and Josh and Billy are now joining the IDP Guys family, IDP Plus family, and we're thrilled to have them. They will be doing a podcast on Wednesday nights where they will be looking forward. A lot of their content in that podcast will be looking forward to the games coming up, as well as talking about IDP as well. So really excited to be having them as part of the family, and I think you're going to enjoy their content now. And they're also going to start writing for us in the near future. They're big into rookies as well. They go to the Senior Bowl as example, so we get some live information from the Senior Bowl from them. So really excited. 2 big announcements. And we should have another tool launching in the site another week. I'll keep that one a secret, though. So that'll be a 3rd one.
And as we jump into these start sits, just think about what we just said. This name, we're transitioning from IDP Guys over to IDP Plus. We're talking ID Plus Devi, like we just said with Senior Bowl. We have ID Plus Rookies. We have ID Plus Gambling Tips. We obviously have IDP in general. Offensive points. We got all of it coming in. So just so many reasons to become a great part of our football family over here. Become a subscriber. Again, the link to do so is in our description below for YouTube, and obviously through any of our links on our social channels. So either way, all that excitement, so much going on, but we do have start sit questions to get to, and ultimately we are here to help you guys, you wonderful people that jump into our streams, and we already have a million questions in the chat, and we had some on Twitter beforehand. So I'm going to start off with those, and I want to start off with a bit of a different one, because this is obviously redraft, but I wanted to talk about a quick dynasty question we got. Cam Taylor or Nate Hobbs in a dynasty tackle-heavy league? I thought this was such an interesting question, especially with quarterback position, because it's such a high turnover. You can find starting cornerbacks in some dynasties on the waiver wire, and so it makes it very difficult to choose between one to keep and then one to cut. So I'm curious. We'll start with you, Sean. Which one of these guys do you prefer in a dynasty in a tackle favored scoring format?
So Nate Hobbs has been a really good tackler. He's racked up a lot over the last few years. The problem has been him staying healthy. So he's not getting tackles if he's not on the field. Cam Taylor Britt was great last year. He's had a pretty good season this year. I think I would go with him. I like his big play upside more than Hobbs, where I feel like Hobbs is limited to just tackles. I think I would go with Britt on this one.
What about you, Ricky?
I'm right there with my partner in crime, Sean here. Cam Taylor Britt has proven to be more durable at this point in time. Nate Hobbs, it's the injury factor that really, really has me lowering him under Cam Taylor Britt. So if I had to make that call, I would go with Cam Taylor Britt.
Yeah, I think you're really splitting hairs between these two guys. I think it's very close. You do have a very slight contract front with Cam Taylor Britt of just being a little bit younger, and Nate Hobbs having his contract year coming up next season as opposed to Cam Taylor Britt in 2 years. But either way, I think you're not going to go too wrong with either of these guys. I'll side with the Cam Taylor Britt side just because I think he's growing in that role. And I almost feel like we've almost seen the best of Nate Hobbs already. We're hoping he can do what he's already doing, but he's got to beat out people for his job. Cam Taylor Britt has already done that. And I could see that being an issue with a whole refresh of a Raiders organization coming up this offseason.
And one other slight variable is the Raiders are probably going to have a new coaching staff next year. And so what does that mean from a scheme perspective and how they might use Hobbs differently? So another reason to go with Taylor Britt.
Yep, and a lot of money to spend wherever they need to as well. And Mark Davis has more than shown that he is willing to pay to get his team to where he wants to go. And again, like I said before, IDP Plus, we just did an IDP Plus Dynasty right there. So we got a lot going on over here. Another question in from Ranton Raven 55 on Twitter. Devon Witherspoon, who's playing Baltimore today, or Kyle Duggar against Washington. I have a pretty it's a little bit tougher than my initial gut wants to say. I want to slam home Devon Witherspoon here. The Baltimore matchup is not ideal, but Kyle Duggar is very tough to trust. So which way are you guys leaning here? Ricky, well, let's go with you this time.
Very similar to you. Duggar is hard to trust, but in this matchup, I really like Duggar in this matchup, and so I'm going to lean with Kyle and the Patriots on this one.
Sean.
Oh man, I've not been a fan of Kyle Duggar for a long time. But every time I tell people not to start him, he seems to go off. So if I tell you I believe in Duggar this week, he's probably not going to do well. So I don't want to jinx somebody. But Duggar has actually been fairly hot here as of recent. He's had some good matchups.
Yeah.
I do think he is the play this week. I do like Witherspoon. He's my favorite rookie corner out there. I love his game.
I have a very bad habit of misspelling Witherspoon every single time I type it out and putting an H for some reason when there's no H in that first part of his name there. But apologies to you, Devon, but I don't think you're watching. I think you're preparing to play football. I'm going to lean towards Duggar as well. I know it's scary. I think there's a decent chance he gets a turnover today. He's racked up, I believe it was 15, 16 tackles over the last 2 weeks. He has shown potentially more. I think he's actually had more than that. And he's picked it up over the last few weeks. And this Patriots defense has changed dramatically over the season of the injuries they've suffered. Juwan Bentley's dealing with a hamstring injury himself, I believe. So I'm willing to ride out Duggar against a very fantasy-friendly Washington offense. That either tracks downfield or allows turnovers.
And with the way Washington gives up sacks, and Duggar has had 2 really good weeks. You know, Witherspoon had that great Monday night game or Sunday night, whichever one it was, where we all saw that his stats haven't been that fantastic last 2 to 3 weeks and all. So I think we have that in our memory as well as the possibilities. But I could see Duggar getting a blitz sack on Sam Howell. I mean, Sam is still on track for about being sacked 90 times this year. So let's see if Duggar gets a blitz sack today.
Yeah, Witherspoon's is a very good player, and he'll have very good weeks. But he's just not an auto start in bad matchups by any means. I think most cornerbacks aren't as well, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Question from Thad Eisenhower. We're getting to the chat now. A few from before the stream, so we're going to be going straight on through here. Stay with us. If we haven't got to your question yet, trust that we're going to get to it eventually. We're going in the order that they came in. Be sure to keep on leaving them in the chat because we have been able, fortunately, to answer every single one this season so far. So keep on rolling. Thad here saying that he really wants to start Taysom Hill. That is the state of the tight end position, saying he also has David Njoku, caught a touchdown last week. Is there any argument or confidence you can give me in starting Hill? Oh, man. Sean, you feeling confident in Taysom?
I actually am. I've picked him up in a couple leagues, and I put him in. He's getting enough gadget plays. I thought he was in quite a few plays last week. He has that bigger touchdown upside that we all like, and I have no idea what Deshaun Watson and the Browns are going to look like when they come out. So I'm trusting Hill.
I'm with you on that. I want Taysom Hill over David Njoku. It's more of a anti-Njoku take. The Cardinals defense has allowed just one touchdown to the tight end all year, and we haven't had enough volume to David Njoku to be anything other than touchdown reliant. So I will lean Taysom Hill in the juicy matchup against Chicago to punch one in or at least get some yards and maybe a catch. Either way, I'm playing a low-end RB in my tight end spot. Ricky, do you agree with that?
We have a trifecta on this one. I think the Saints found something last week with they were struggling in the red zone and they decided to use Hill more, particularly after a couple of carries where Kamara got stuffed. And having that extra blocker and Tamara just wouldn't Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara be quite the combination there? But having Taysom Hill, just take the snap direct and this is a Bears team without Edmonds today, and on top of that, trying to work in Sweat. Yeah, I don't feel good about Cleveland's going to run the ball 34 times for about 185 yards and 3 touchdowns against Arizona today. I think Ford and Hunt are both startable. And I just don't think they're going to need to throw the ball a lot. Clayton Tune's going to have 2 or 3 turnovers to give them great field position. This is going to be just a complete blowout. So I just don't see much in the passing game. Okay, I think I'm through rambling. Taysom Hill is the answer.
You may be the first person in this 2023 NFL season who has called for a Browns blowout in their favor. Listen, the defense is unreal. Like, we have no doubts about what the defense can do, but offense scoring 3 touchdowns. They look at you. Feeling
almost 200 yards rushing. Watch this.
Okay, 200 yards rushing. You're to your first.
Well, I said about 180, so we'll go about 180. Ford and Hunt
250 yards rushing.
I want the exact number.
And I will say, Ricky's premonitions on these takes have been more right than wrong on this show this season. So
can we go with mostly, by the way, not more, but mostly there?
Okay, yeah. So 300 yards rushing for Cleveland today. You heard it here. Question for Fantasy Breakout. Hey, guys, hope you have a great weekend. Hope you do too, Fantasy Breakout. It needs 1 linebacker and 1 defensive back. Linebacker choices are Frankie Louvu, Levante David, Logan Wilson, Kazir White, all good options. And defensive backs, you got Dalen Petrie, Julian Love, Kenny Moore, and Julian Blackman. We are picking that's a good question, Fantasy Breakout. I understand why you are struggling with that one. Man, that's difficult. I think my initial take would be going with Levante David, and then I'm struggling a little bit with the defensive back right now. Although I do like Kazir White too. Man, I'll go Levante David and Jalen Petrie. Although I do like Kenny Moore this week, he's been very hot lately. Sean, what's your duo here? I don't think you're going wrong with much of these names.
Yeah, I think your linebackers are very solid. You're not going to screw this up, I don't think. I will go with White. If he's going to be getting ran at for 300 yards, it's going to be a lot of tackle opportunities there. So I do like White's matchup the best. And defensive back, I'm leaning Moore or Blackman. I think I'm leaning Blackman. I think that's the guy I want right now.
Well, you were 1 for 2 on that, Sean.
That's not bad for me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on the White. In all seriousness, I really do think that the Browns are going to run and run and run all over Arizona, particularly when they get this big lead. And so I think White will get a lot of tackles. Petrie's been a disappointment this year, folks. And,
Right.
there's a lot much better defense being played in front of him, which isn't giving him the chance for tackles, not to mention the missed tackles that he had so many of last year. And a typically like safety over a cornerback, but then Julian Love has not been paying 100% of the snaps with Adams back. Not a huge Blackman fan either. Kenny Moore, I love the way he's been being used, and they've been blitzing him some. I'm going White and Moore on this one.
Moore is the hot hand of this bunch for sure. So I have no issue. That's typically how I like playing my defensive backs as well, is riding the hot hand. So no issues with Moore, and certainly no issues with White. But I think like we said, I think all three of us said at the top of our answers, you're not going wrong with many of these names. These are all good options. Willpower asking Carl Granderson or Montez Sweat, the new Chicago Bear making his debut this week and rest of season question here. For Carl Granderson, Montez Sweat, picking one straight up. Always difficult to do when someone's making a change mid-season to a new team, especially going from a very deep and talented Washington defensive line to the opposite of that in Chicago. So, Ricky, do you have any preference between your Saint and the new Bear?
As a Montez Sweat owner in my favorite dynasty league, I was so disappointed to see him going to the Bears. There's just not much there. When the offensive line has to account for a Chase Young, a Jonathan Allen, a Daron Payne, and a Montez Sweat, I like those odds better versus when they have to account for Andrew Billings, Justin Jones, Yannick Ngakoue, or DeMarcus Walker. And plus, it's his first game with the Bears. Saints offensive line is actually finally healthy. Not that they've been earth-shattering when they are healthy, but I don't like Sweat coming in the middle of the week, first new team. And also for today, Granderson, and actually because of what I said earlier, what I was describing earlier about the supporting cast that he'll have on the line, I would actually go Granderson rest of season as well on this one.
Do you agree, Sean? Might be having some connection issues potentially. Sean, can you hear us?
I got you. You got me?
There we go.
Hello?
There we go.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, Granderson, I'm with you. I definitely like him this week. I love his matchup. I felt the pain just as much with Sweat moving away from Payne and Allen and Chase. I mean that was such a good team up on that line, and he's going to Yannick Ngakoue. It doesn't do it for Walker. Me. That doesn't do it for me.
I actually. Oh, sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. Go for it.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I actually don't. I really don't mind the trade for the long-term dynasty outlook of this. I do love the idea of him landing a $98 million extension. I think DeMarcus Walker will play significantly better inside. It's where he played best with, I believe it was Tennessee. He was much better inside, and for some reason the Bears have decided to play him outside, and it just has not worked out. Ngakoue is what he is, but you imagine he's not going to be there this time next year. So I didn't let you finish with your actual answer, but for me it would be Granderson this week and for rest of season, just because I do like Granderson, but both have good playoff schedules, so I think both of them will find a way to be productive by the end of the season. It's just going to be not as matchup proof as it once was. But Sean, I didn't let you give your final answer, so.
Yeah, for sure, Granderson this week. On the season, I wouldn't be surprised if Sweat picks it back up with the division he's in, playing against the Packers and the Vikings, who just lost Kirk Cousins. I do think there'll be plenty of opportunities for him to keep it rolling, but Granderson has been on fire this year, like a lot of us were hoping. So, rest of season, slightly Granderson.
Yeah, I think there's also a little bit of a higher floor as well. Even with Washington, we were seeing 2.0 type of floors with Montez Sweat in the past, which maybe is also a result of the talent around him, and he could have a higher tackle floor in Chicago. But again, which is why we're all saying Granderson this week, because we want to see it play out at least for a week. So Willpower also asking, would you play Kazir White over the Jets linebackers who have a tough matchup on paper on Monday? Bobby Wagner, TJ Edwards. These are all great names. I'm not benching Quincy Williams for anyone. I'm sorry. I don't care about matchups. I just can't bench him right now. I know we all just sung our praises for Kazir White, right? But Quincy Williams is doing untold fantasy numbers, and I'm not going to bench him in the same way I won't be benching Jamar Chase type of play for an offensive comparison. But I see you nodding along, Ricky.
Absolutely. Look, your Quincy Williams' Defensive Player of the Month just got announced, so that says a lot. And
he played 4 games. He had a bye during the month.
It's amazing. And so all of these the four outside of White are top 10. And while I do expect White to have a good game, sometimes we overthink things a little bit with matchups and all, but I still run with your studs. There's nothing worse than leaving one of your studs on your bench because we thought there was a great matchup or things along those lines. And in some cases, the great matchup may win out, but in this one, I'm rolling with the 4 that you have, and I'm not playing White.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. If I would swap anybody out, it would be Wagner. Just because we are expecting a bigger game from White this week, and I feel like Wagner has the biggest competition where we see Mosley and Quincy both thrive together. It hasn't always been the case with Brooks and Wagner, so I might swap Wagner out for White. But yeah, I'm not swapping Quincy out. TJ Edwards just lost Tremaine Edmonds, so I'm not doing that either.
I love Wagner's matchup, so I want to keep him in there. TJ Edwards, for obvious reasons, I want to keep him in there, and obviously talk about Quincy. If I were to play Kazir, it would probably be over CJ Mosley, but that, again, to everything we've said so far, both those guys have been rock solid all year. Of a down week for CJ Mosley is still 12 fantasy points or so, or 10 fantasy points. So I don't mind playing Kazir White over Mosley if I had to pick one. I'm not benching Quincy, Wagner, or TJ Edwards in the matchups that they have regardless. Keep on going here with Will. Offensive question. We don't always get them from Will, but we're happy to have them. KJ Osborne, Khalil Shakir, not big breakout, but mini breakout last week. Jonathan Mingo or Wan'Dale Robinson in full PPR. Man, we are diving deep, and I got to imagine and pray that this is a dynasty question for our start set for week 9. I'll go Shakir. I don't love any of these names, but I'm not playing any of the Vikings wide receivers with Jaron Hall. I'm not playing Jonathan Mingo with DJ Chark healthy. And I don't mind playing Wan'Dale if we want him, especially in full PPR. You can talk me into it. But I have such a low interest in the New York Giants this week. It's truly not even funny. So I'll go Shakir slightly, but I recognize there's more of a 0-point floor with him. Ricky, which way are you leaning?
To quote the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
Nice.
I actually like the Jonathan Mingo matchup this week. Excuse me.
I do too.
I do against the Colts. The Colts secondary, the cornerbacks in particular, outside of Moore, are really banged up. Mingo, they coming out of the bye, they started targeting him a lot more last week. He was second in targets behind Thielen. So, and I could see that happening again against this banged up Colts secondary. I think you'll see more on the slot again, a little bit more, which typically when they go to 3 cornerbacks, they do move more in the slot. He'll be more in Thielen. This could be a breakout game from Mingo this week in Bryce Young. So I'm actually going to run with Mingo on this one, Will.
I understand that. I do. I'm not the biggest Mingo guy, which is why I think I'm not totally buying into it, plus the DJ Chark return. But I liked what I saw from Bryce Young last week, and I thought the Panthers would end up winning that game. But Sean, which wide receiver are you picking here? Full PPR.
Yeah, I'm right there with Ricky. I'm Dingo right now. The shark thing does kind of take away from him a bit. I was kind of hoping he would be out, but this will be a potential shootout between these two teams, I think. I think there'll be plenty of receptions for Mingo.
All right.
By the way, I like where Sean was going with that. I could see this game being a lot higher scoring than people expect.
Let me see. Let me quickly check what the over/under is for. I personally think it's going to be closer to the under of whatever the low line this game will be. It is a 44.5 over/under. That's higher than I thought it would be. So, yeah, that tells you there's going to be points on the board, and if there's points on the board, anyone could catch them from Carolina because nobody's really setting themselves aside there outside of Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Now Shakir would have been my second choice on the list here. I'm sorry, I'm not going to trust Osborne with Jaron Hall in his first game, and the Giants, even with their finally getting some offensive tackles back potentially, I'm just not trusting that. So that's hope that helps, Will.
Yeah, let's move on. All right, another one. Last one from Will here. Julian Blackman, Kenny Moore, Nate Hobbs, Reed Blankenship. DB question here. It's between Blackman and Moore for me. I'm going to lean with Kenny Moore. Been red hot. I'll go with Kenny Moore. We touched on him before, so I won't say too much on it. But Sean, which DB? You took Blackman before, I know.
Yeah, I'll probably stick with that. I do like Blankenship as a player. I like the way he flies around and gets tackles. A little tougher matchup this week. Hobbs, he could have a good week too, though. I think he's got a really good matchup.
A lot of good matchups here. Nate Hobbs, good matchup. Kenny Moore, good matchup. Julian Blackman, good matchup.
I think I'll stick with Blackman here. Just I don't have a great reason why, just because it will be a shootout and there'll be a lot of tackles.
He has the highest floor of this bunch, I think. I think if any of them were going to have 5 tackles as a minimum, it's going to be Julian Blackman of this. But
his ceiling's not as high. I don't think
we've got some disagreement here.
We've got a dissenting vote here. I actually like Blankenship, and I was just quickly checking a couple of scoring systems. Blankenship is a top 5 safety in average points per game.
He's been great.
And they're playing against the Cowboys, who, what do we know about the Cowboys? They light it up when they play sub 500 teams, and they unfortunately have been stinking it up when they play better than 500 teams. So I think this is a Reed Blankenship interception week, and I like Blankenship out of this one, Will.
My only question or pushback, I guess if he gets the pass deflections, it won't be an issue with that. You know, that'll probably save the day. But if Dallas is struggling to move the ball, does that help Blankenship? Because I kind of want an offense that's going to be able to connect downfield when it comes to, a safety like Blankenship.
That's a fair point, Michael. This is not an easy one, and I see why we're struggling and asked us the question and all. And I don't know if we helped. We kind of split the vote 3 ways and all, Will. So magic 8 ball time.
If I had to pick a side and switch my vote to choose one, I'd go to Blackman as well. I do really like Julian Blackman. I like Blackman and Kenny Moore quite a bit this week. Another one for Fancy Breakout. Favorite of the defense of DSTs here. He's got the Dallas Cowboys. Should you play the Packers, Patriots, or Falcons? The Falcons having that juicy matchup against Jaron Hall and the Minnesota Vikings. It's hard to bench the Cowboys, but the Eagles are a tough matchup. I'm gonna say play the Falcons. I've been such a believer in this Falcons defense. It has been up and down, I'd say, all year, and they should have shelled out and got Montez Sweat, who would have been amazing on that defense, but whatever. Either way, I think there's a real world the Vikings get shut out today, or don't score an offensive touchdown. So I'm gonna go with the Falcons on that one. Ricky, do you have a preference?
I'll support you in the Falcons, but you've got Green Bay taking on Brett Ripien. If I said that correctly, and you have, and depending on how many points your defenses get for sacks, of course, New England hasn't been rushing the passer as well. Yeah, so I think I'm going to stick with your Falcons recommendation. But I would switch out the Cowboys. I agree with that overall. Sean, sorry.
Yeah, we're definitely switching Cowboys out here. With the amount of sacks the Commanders are giving up, that Patriots, matchup looks nice. Like I say, depending on the score there, and it seems like they always have a chance to return something for a touchdown, whether it be defense or special teams. Just hasn't quite hit much this year. Yeah, I don't hate the Falcons pick. I really don't. Patriots would be my next pick.
Yeah, the Patriots are a defense that always rounds into form around that November, then December, and they get better and better as the year goes. They always start slow and then end strong. This could be the week that turns around and that incline starts to happen. We haven't seen it yet. This has been arguably the worst Patriots defense we've had in years. I'd say I keep on expecting them to show me more, and I get nothing. And Matt Judon injury probably impacts that. Juwan Bentley injury impacts that. All the injuries at cornerback could impact.
Cornerback, yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to turn around. If they do, it's probably going to be this week. But for now, I'm gonna bet against Jaron Hall, who I just don't see as an NFL quarterback, to be honest. And neither do the Vikings, because they went out and traded for Josh Dobbs. Yeah, so another rookie coming out here starting this week. Nathan, question from ourselves here. The likelihood that Aiden O'Connell goes off today, considering that teams usually ball out again, after a head coach gets fired. Teams are better after that, and I do think, honestly, they could rally around Josh McDaniels being gone. And I am a believer in Aiden O'Connell. I have been a big fan of his at Purdue. I like him. And the Giants' defense does not impress me whatsoever. And it just lost Leonard Williams. So, goes off is a relative term. He might go off, and his little is in his ceiling, but won't be. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be a QB1, but he could crawl into top 18. I think that could be a serviceable QB2, but I do think that's maybe not his ceiling, but close to it. He has Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, two really good receivers at that. So I like Aiden O'Connell still this week. I think the Raiders beat the Giants this week, but Ricky, do you have a take?
I agree. Goes off is a strong term and all. So I think you'll have a solid game, a decent game, maybe even top 12 potentially, but nothing that, I'm certainly not going to the bank and saying he'll be a top 5 quarterback. And as a side note, speaking of IDP Plus and the brand that we talked about earlier, notice how Nathan snuck that in as part of his posting, the new look and feel of our brand, the IDP Plus brand. So hope y'all like the way that looks.
So professional. Sean, Aiden O'Connell, top 3 QB?
The last time I seen him start a game, he got sacked by Khalil Mack like 6 times. So that's going to be tough. I don't think he goes off. I think he'll do decent, but yeah, I don't see him going off. I think Thibodeau puts him in the ground quite a bit this week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, in the same sense of we don't know what we're going to get from Montez Sweat, we think we know what we're going to get from Thibodeau, arguably the most informed pass rusher in the NFL right now, but no more Leonard Williams. That's going to have to make a difference of the attention that he drew on the inside. And, the Giants are a bottom 3 team in sacks per game, even with Thibodeau's breakout. So something's got to give here. Either Aiden O'Connell is going to get sacked a lot, like happened, against the Chargers, or this Giants defense is not going to be able to get home like it struggled to all year. So it's going to be that's going to be a very interesting yet ugly game to watch this today game. That doesn't have another question in here. Superflex, Deshaun Watson, Aiden O'Connell again here, or Adam Thielen? What an interesting question. I like this. I'm going to start off this question by assuming it's PPR to give Thielen a fighting chance in this. If it's half PPR, I'm not going to consider it. But that's a good question because honestly, my initial instinct says Adam Thielen. But and Ricky, I see you nodding in agreement over there.
I am, Superflex. It's a rare that I want to go into the second spot, usually with a non-quarterback. But how can you trust Deshaun Watson after 1 for 5 when he was out there that last time with an interception and not looking that strong? We already talked earlier about I think they can just run the ball down Arizona's throat and so forth. O'Connell, top 15, top 12, maybe, probably top 18 to your point, Michael. And Thielen's a top 5 wide receiver right now in PPR. So, and we talked earlier about we think that game's going to be a shootout. So very, very different from me, but I'm with you, Michael. I'm going Thielen on this one.
Yeah, that is where I'm leaning. Sean, are you making this a trio of agreement over here? Or are you going to dissent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't trust either one of these quarterbacks. And if it's like our, IDP guys invitational scoring where we get negative points for incompletions and sacks and all that, then definitely starting Thielen.
Yeah, I mean, this Colts secondary has been beat all year. It's been a little bit better after a horrific start. The first 3 to 4 weeks for the Colts were so bad, but still nothing to write home about in that secondary. And Adam Thielen should get a lot of volume. So yeah, I'm in for Thielen there. I think he's going to get at least 15 points, and I think that's more than you could expect from Watson or O'Connell this week.
What a feeling, burn for Adam Thielen. Okay, I won't sing anymore. Okay,
I'm going to need you to record that when we're off the show, so I can just record that as an MP4 and just play it whenever we need to. I got to start all of our audio segments made by Ricky in his wonderful voice. Fantasy sports with a question here. Need to pick a quarterback with all those bye weeks. It is brutal out there for some people. Trevor Lawrence on bye. Kyler Murray still on the pup. 10-team redraft. Who should he drop to pick someone up? Deontay Johnson, who you might be able to drop because he played on Thursday. You might not be able to, depending on your league. I know Yahoo has some restrictions with that. Zay Flowers or Jerome Ford. All three are his flex player. Are options for his flex until James Conner returns from injury. Man, well, I haven't heard James Conner's name in so long. But as for the question here, that is tough. It is always tough with 10-team leagues because you know that there are good names out there, but we still think in 12-team format, so it's always hard to make a cut on this bunch. I'm not cutting Deontay Johnson. I'll get that out of the way. He's really damn good and is getting all the PPR love. So I'm not cutting him, and then we have a much more difficult choice here. So I'm going to pass it on to someone else, as a host does. So, Sean, do you have a preference on who you're cutting here?
Yeah, I have no fear of being wrong. I'll take Jerome Ford out of this.
That's where I lean.
It'll be
surprisingly.
The Kareem Hunt show is what I'm thinking here. Just hasn't been just really great. Zay Flowers has shown some flashes, but he can get lost as well. But his upside more. Ford will get you that one big long touchdown and then nothing the rest of the game. So I think I would drop Ford. I'm not dropping Johnson. I do know.
What about you, Ricky?
I just traded for Deontay Johnson because I traded for him before the Thursday night game, feeling really good about his prospects and all. So definitely keeping him. I think Flowers, we're about to see another upswing with these rookies that usually take off in the second half of the season of their first year and all. So I'd hate to drop any of the three. And so the fantasy sports, the other thing you might want to consider is what else do you have at running back on your team? What else do you have at wide receiver? If you give up Ford, do you have enough running back depth to make up for it? Or similarly with Flowers, it is pretty close. I prefer to keep Flowers, but if your running backs are on the lighter side, I'm keeping Ford and dropping Flowers.
I've got 2 points. One along to what you were just saying there, Ricky. Because I do have 1 or 2 10-team leagues out there, and that is the big thing is I have 4 receivers on my bench that I feel like I can't cut because they're productive, but I just happen to have better ones because it's so much deeper at receiver, and yet I'm struggling to fill my RB2 spot, or I'm playing Gus Edwards and I'm flipping him out with someone else who pops up for the week. And in that instance, I'd kind of want Ford. So I think it does depend a little bit on how deep you are at receiver. If Deontay is, an option for your flex as opposed to someone you need to play in your flex, maybe you don't need Zay Flowers. But again, I don't want to cut Zay Flowers. And the other thing I'll raise up as a possibility is a 10-team league. Trevor Lawrence has not been world-beating. Do you think about cutting Trevor Lawrence for the quarterback and trying to get Trevor Lawrence after the bye? I'm assuming this is one QB. In doing so, obviously, if it's super flex, you hold on to him, but that might be a fine option too. It's not like Trevor Lawrence has been lighting it on fire for fantasy, and he gets San Francisco after the bye, Tennessee after that, 2 tougher matchups. In doing so, doesn't have the greatest playoff schedule to begin with. So, yeah, I think that's another thing to throw out there, at least to consider. Keep on throwing out those questions in here. Oh, he added some extra context here. He says other receivers are Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, the veteran trio. Yeah, I guess and running backs are Jacobs and Pacheco. Ooh,
I'm
man.
dropping Flowers in that situation then.
Yeah, I guess I am too. If Ford is my RB3 or is my RB4/RB3 as my next man up, I probably do want to keep Ford there as a shot. He also has a very soft schedule coming up for the run defense.
Yeah.
With those 3 wide receivers. Oh, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, I think you guys already nailed it. Yeah, if your running back room is that, that close, then definitely Ford. You're probably going to need him. Yeah, Flowers would be the guy to get rid of here.
Yeah, and so there we go. I think we came around to it. Another one for fantasy sports at safety this time. Kyle Hamilton or Ryan Neal. Oh man, it's like picking between my 2 children who have both disappointed me.
But the last 2, we've been hard on Kyle Hamilton on this show through the yeyear, and I'll be the first to admit it. But the last 2 weeks, Kyle's had 7 tackles and combined tackles, solo and assisted, and 10. Now Ryan Neal's done similar with about 6 and 9, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Neither one is great matchups if you look at points given up to safeties in this one. I'm actually leaning towards Hamilton in this one. I think Seattle's going to try and run the ball, particularly this whole West Coast to East Coast trip thing and all. I just see them trying to run the ball and control the clock a little bit more. And if Hamilton's been going those tackles the last 2 weeks, which means they've been probably leveraging more closer to the line and all, I'm going Hamilton on this one.
I think that's where I lean as well. I don't love the matchups for either of these guys, so I'm just taking the one that I lean as a better playmaker, the guy that I think has a higher chance of getting a breakup or getting a TFL. He's just a better talent, but it's definitely close. Sean, which way do you lean?
I've been hard on Hamilton, I have. But I do think he is the play this week. I still like Ryan Neal in this, so I really don't think you're going to go wrong this week. But Hamilton has the higher floor.
Yeah,
ceiling. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're in agreement on that one. So I'll lean Hamilton slightly, but I do think Neal has a high floor as well. Should you start Mike Evans or Zay Flowers? Funny enough, the 2 players that Fantasy Sports has on his roster that we were just talking about before. So Mike Evans, remind me that they have a matchup against Houston, a tougher matchup for receivers this year, and Zay Flowers. Obviously, we were just talking about it before, going against the Seattle Seahawks, which has been a pretty good matchup for receivers this year. I lean Zay in PPR. If we're talking standard, I'll go Mike Evans, but I'll lean Zay Flowers ever so slightly. But it's a ceiling versus floor type of situation again. I think Zay gives you the floor and Mike Evans gives you the ceiling, which I think has been true all year long. But Ricky, do you have a preference of the 2?
I'm actually leaning Evans on this one. You bring up a good point there, Michael. But I think Houston does have a solid defense, but how much have they truly been challenged? And Evans has been a top 10, top 12 wide receiver most of the year. I'm going to go with the top 10, top 12 wide receiver with Mike Evans on this one.
Sean.
Yeah, we can just about count on Evans to score at least a touchdown, right? Whether it's 7 catches, 3 catches, whatever. I like his consistency here. He's the guy I'm going with.
That's the interesting thing, right? We know Mike Evans can score touchdowns. He has 5 this year already. But this Houston defense has allowed just 2 touchdowns to receivers this year. So if anyone's going to break that, certainly could be Mike Evans. And Ricky, you bring up a great point about the division they're in. It's not the biggest threat in terms of receivers and the matchup and the schedule they've had. So I have no issue with rocking Mike Evans on this one. I'll stick with Zay because I do like the Seattle matchup a lot, and I love the targets that Zay is seeing. But it's certainly close, and I wouldn't fault anyone for playing Mike Evans because obviously Mike Evans has been a star. Sean coming in here saying we haven't stirred him wrong yet, which, hey, that's what we're here for, man. He's got one more question here. Hopefully we keep it going. I'm assuming this is CJ Mosley or Myles Garrett. An interesting question that I imagine is the flex, and I imagine is going to be a pretty scoring dependent for us to give the best possible advice on. So if you hop back in the call and give us scoring formats, we can always circle back and try to add in some extra help here. In a vacuum, I was gonna just say I'll take Mosley, but
You were confident there for a second.
I must admit, I have visions of Myles Garrett just blindsiding Clayton Tune and just planting him on the ground and causing a fumble and a strip sack fumble. I could just see Garrett having a big game today against the Arizona rookie.
I can't bench him. I can't. I'll play him. I'll run the risk if there is a risk. I'm with you. I'll go Myles Garrett against that amazing matchup in Arizona with a rookie 7th-round quarterback. He does say it's his flex position as well, so I think that offers you a little bit more upside to swing for the fences when it's your flex. And in doing so, I'll go with Myles Garrett. But Sean, which side are you on here?
Yeah, I'm with Myles Garrett on this one. We've already talked about Mosley having a little tougher, matchup this week. Myles Garrett, it doesn't matter the opponent, and if it's a rookie making his first start, he's going to eat the dirt today.
Yeah, my only objection to us all agreeing that it should be Myles Garrett would be if your scoring format rewards 2-point sacks or something. Yeah, maybe even 3-point sacks. I wouldn't be interested. But if we're talking 4 plus a TFL and even a QB hit or something like that, we'll go with Myles Garrett on that but again, the scoring formats fluctuate so much in IDP that, we're trying to give the best advice we can, but obviously it is a little bit dependent on how your league scores sacks. So let's keep on going here. Nate's saying that that I'm a better host. We should fire the last guy. I think it's interesting. It's something we should bring up on Wednesday, Ricky, and think it through. But either way, fancy breakdown question. Half PPR, Tank Dell, Marquise Brown, or Brandon Cooks picking 2. You can't pay me to play Brandon Cooks right now, but you also can't pay me to play Marquise Brown right now, which means I'm playing Tank Dell and having to decide the other one. So going Tank Dell and Brandon Cooks. I want nothing to do with this Clayton Tune experiment in Cleveland. Especially in half PPR. What do you think, Ricky?
Ding, 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 ding. I just want nothing to do with the Arizona offense today. So I'm with you on I'm sitting Marquise Brown on this one.
Sean.
Yeah, I'm about there with you guys. Dale was the easy choice here to start. And I really don't like the last 2 at all. But Brandon Cooks maybe gets you a little better just because he has Dak Prescott. It's not going to be a lot better, but
you're just picking the offense at that point. That's really
basically
what it comes down to.
Yeah.
One of these teams has a higher chance of visiting the red zone more than once, and it's certainly not the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep. And on the previous question, my answer would be Michael Sicoli over Nathan Cheatham for both today and rest of season, by the way, in case and for dynasty, in fact, so it'd be all of them. It would be Michael over Nathan. Yeah.
Is this are we selling low on Nate though? That's my worry. Are we selling low or selling high?
I think we're selling high. From a host perspective, we're selling high. Yeah.
We're selling high. Okay.
Yep.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Obviously, I haven't been able to tune in the last couple of weeks, but that's good to know. We'll all go back to the drawing board on that. We'll go back to the tape and do what's best for the team. TM with the question in here. How would you rank these defensive linemen? The new 49er, Chase Young, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana. The 2 Chiefs have already played, so we can't really do anything with that. But Chase Young, Will Anderson, Kwity Paye, Chris Jones, Jermaine Johnson. I love Jermaine Johnson with all my heart. I don't love this matchup, but I do love Jermaine Johnson. I don't really know if this is rest of season or I'm assuming this is update question here. I'm assuming this is rest of season redraft. I'm going to guess, or maybe it's, I guess it's this week. I'm assuming it's this week, I guess. given that
Yeah,
it's a week.
let's do this. TM, give us a little bit more context, and we'll look for that. We'll come back to this one. I'd like a little bit more context as well.
Yeah, we just don't want to obviously steer you wrong. I appreciate the scoring format, but we obviously don't want to just assume something and give you the wrong information for this week. So, Fan Sports with another question here. How do we rank these safeties? Dax Hill, Kyle Hamilton, Jaquan Brisker, John, I assume that's Justin Simmons, Ryan Neal, and Von Bell. Von Bell, I believe, is out this week.
Correct.
Yeah, so he's out.
He was doubtful. I haven't seen if it's officially
doubtful.
out.
Doubtful. We can assume he's going to be out this week at least. I love Dax Hill this week. I mean, he's been good all year, honestly. So for me, I'm going to order this as Dax Hill, Ryan Neal. Dax Hill, Kyle Hamilton, Ryan Neal, Jaquan Brisker, Simmons, Bell, I guess, in theory. It's DB.
Brisker
really week to week. What's that?
Is Brisker playing this week?
I believe he is. But let me fact check that.
I thought he was out.
You give me your bunch. Yes, he is out actually. So yeah, we could put Brisker and Von Bell pretty much out of this because they're both out this week. But Dax Hill, Dax Hill's my number one. Is the gist of this question. But Sean, do you have a preference?
I would go Hill, Hamilton, Neal, Simmons. Yeah, I think that's the way I would go. Which Simmons is on a bye, so that one's out too. So
this is why you're just such an amazing part of this show, Sean. You are providing us with the important context that my brain was not of two of these players are out and other ones on bye. So we can probably rule out some of them for this week, and we can focus on, I guess, rest of season, which I don't think changes our answers too much because we're still playing by matchup. But
and I don't disagree with you for today, which you guys were saying earlier, and for rest of season, I have it almost in this exact same order, except for I'd probably put Simmons actually at the bottom, and I'd go Hill, Hamilton, Brisker, Neal, Bell, Simmons.
Alrighty. And we did get some clarification from Sean, at least, that sacks are actually worth more than tackles. So,
Myles Garrett.
Garrett to the moon. Garrett to the moon for your flex position there, my man. Where are we at now? Any other questions we have? Keep on rolling them in. We got 8 minutes, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can. Andrew, you with a question. Denzel Perriman, EJ Speed, or Jack Sanborn. You need 2 linebackers. Jack Sanborn stands out as the easy start for me this week. Zaire Franklin, questionable, was the last thing I saw. Have we got any clarification on whether he's going to play? He didn't practice all week, but was marked as downgraded doubtful yesterday. So he's likely out, which means EJ Speed will be the linebacker 2 in Indianapolis. Denzel Perriman, obviously, with a very weird linebacker room in Houston.
The question is, will he be? I am a little bit nervous. I do have EJ Speed on my bench where I have Zaire Franklin. I'm sorry, I'm just checking a few of the inactives here on the side. But when Franklin missed those 2 snaps last week before he went back in the game, they put in, and unfortunately I'm going to butcher the poor person's name, Sagan Olby or something like that. Perfect. And so we'll go with that.
I'm not sure who you're talking about. I'll look it up.
We'll go with
name. I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and so that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm gonna gamble that EJ Speed does play in Franklin's place, and I would definitely I would go with him and Sanborn actually with Edmonds being out. But it is a little bit of a gamble, so I want to make sure Andrew's aware. It is a little bit gamble that it could be a little surprise that this Segben Olby. So right after we get off here, I'm going to actually be trying to do some research and see if any Colts beat writers put anything out there that says anything along the line about how they're lining up during warm-ups today.
What about you, Sean? What duo are you taking?
Definitely Sanborn. And I'm going to lean Perryman, even though he's not getting all the snaps. I know what he can do with half snaps. He just racks up tackles. I know the matchup isn't great, but I can trust him to be in there, I think, a little more than Speed.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, this whole thing, because Denzel Perriman, 9 tackles, half a sack, a TFL. a QB hit, all that would tell you that he played 85% of snaps. He only played 48% last week.
Yep.
Right.
So that's the interesting thing of what Sean you were just saying about how efficient he was able to be, but he does have to be efficient to get it done because it does seem like Henry Toto as well as Blake Cashman is playing ahead of him. So Ricky.
I'm sorry, Michael. I
good.
thought you'd pause there, but Baker Mayfield's passed 42 times the last 2 weeks. And so that and what we've seen is Perriman's been coming off the field in those types of situations. So both Perriman and Speed both have some risk on this one, Andrew.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to lean Speed. And, if I learned anything from the Buffalo linebacker situations, that the backup linebacker in the middle doesn't always equate to the same linebacker takeover of, we assumed Tyrell Dodson was going to be the backup because he filled in or because, we saw him at times last year, and Terrell Bernard was the guy that got the run this year. So EJ Speed and Sanborn is where I slightly lean. Sanborn obviously being the unanimous pick of all three of us here. Let's keep on going. Excuse me. Nate saying that Ricky should do a Johnny Carson type of show with his premonitions. We could probably add that into the show schedule at some point. We could start.
I think we could, and he didn't mention my singing either, so I think we could work that in as well. So I think
maybe a halftime show. Maybe we have a halftime show with you singing.
Nice. He's got his own theme song. It could be Ricky's Right Reads. Could be the name of the show. We could do this.
Yes, well said. Also, for all the Dolphins fans and fantasy owners out there, Reem Mostert just had a 13-yard rushing touchdown, so good for them. Anyway, the defensive line question was for rest of season. TM got back to us, so one of the last questions we have in here. So let's go back to it. Rest of season ranking these defensive linemen with tackles being 5-point tackles, I'm guessing, and 3-point sacks.
No. He's saying
5-point solo, 3-point assists. Wow, that is hefty IDP scoring. I love it. 5-point tackles, 3-point assists, 10 for sacks, 7 for fumbles, and 5 for PD. So juiced up scoring, especially 4 sacks, but just as much for tackles, honestly. Man, Chase Young.
Chase Young is first on my list.
Chris Jones after that for me.
Man, that's where I'm supposed to chime in and say where mine is, and I'm struggling here. But how about this? Whenever, let's see, Sean, you seem like the most sure of all three of us right now with an order right here. So if you have an order, hit us with it as I quickly double check my numbers before I say anything wrong.
Is this Kwity Paye or Deron Payne?
I'm assuming it's Kwity Paye, but that's a good point too. Before he said, honestly, that's a good question. If we get any, I'm going to assume it's Kwity Paye for now, but if not, let us know.
I don't know if it changes a whole lot, but I will go Young, Chris Jones. Man. Karlaftis, Johnson, Anderson, and then Paye or Payne.
I'm gonna go on a limb here, Ricky. I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump out on this.
Branch out there, Michael.
Go for it. All right, here we go. Chase Young, Jermaine Johnson's my number 2. I am so in on this breakout. It's here. He's a beast. It is Kwity. We guys have confirmation there. So I'm going Chase Young, Kwity Paye, or Chase Young, Jermaine Johnson, Will Anderson, George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Kwity Paye. I'm underwhelmed with what I'm getting from Chris Jones this year so far, for fantasy at least. Obviously, what he does on the field is amazing, but it doesn't always translate fantasy points. And right now, he's also only has 1 tackle right now, which is certainly swaying my thoughts unfairly as well. But Ricky, do you have an answer for this one?
Yeah, I'm disappointed in Chris Jones too this year, and there's been a couple of plays when I've watched him, and I just didn't seem to see the same hustle that I saw in the past in terms of trying to chase down a quarterback as the quarterback tried to roll out. Well, but it was incentives that were added, and he's not exactly chasing those incentives. So, but I do love Jermaine Johnson too. So I like Chase Young, Jermaine Johnson, Will Anderson third,
It's
because I
coming.
think it's coming. Exactly right. Exactly right. That's how I'm feeling. Quiddy Pay fourth, Chris Jones fifth, Karlaftis last.
Karloff is such a weird person, man, because he's been productive and then other times he just disappears. It's that Chiefs defensive line that really makes it a little bit difficult with how many names are on the edge there.
They've been putting Clark on the edge for some rushing, which doesn't necessarily help him, in my opinion. They've got Dana, they've got Ominahu back, they got their first round rookie, who I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. Let's just go with Felix.
FAU.
And so let's go with that. And so I've just got him I just got him on the bottom list from that regard.
All right, and there we go. We have wrapped it up, and once again, time to more or less perfectly. Oh yes, and I see it. Don't you worry, Ricky. I was going to throw it your way.
No, actually, there was one before that. Go back up to Andrew Yu for the safety question.
Oh no! Oh, I missed the safety question from Andrew. Oh, I'm a bad person, Andrew. I apologize. Jordan Whitehead.
Still better than Nathan, for the record, but yeah.
Okay. Jordan Whitehead, Jerome. I assume Buda Baker because it's defensive back. So Jordan Whitehead, Buda Baker, or Xavier Woods. I like Whitehead this week. It feels weird not to say Buda Baker immediately on this one. And I probably should just say Buda Baker if this is Buda Baker, not Jerome Baker. But I do like Jordan Whitehead this week. It's one of the best matchups for safety possible. I'm going Whitehead. Call me crazy. I'm going to go crazy on this one. But I think you got a point here, Ricky. What do you make?
I'm going to go Buda, and it goes back to the premonition since the beginning of Cleveland running the ball so much. Buda be down in the box, as Cleveland is just running out the clock in the fourth quarter. I think Buda will get a bunch of tackles in this one. So I definitely understand your argument for Whitehead. Close second, but I'm going Buda on this one.
I definitely understand your argument for Buda Baker. Split the tie for us here, Sean.
I will side with Buda Baker here, and then I like actually Woods more than Whitehead, just from a consistency point here. Yeah, burying you, Michael.
Hurting me. Oh, we should make a friendly wager on that after the show, but whatever. Either way,
do you know which team is averaging the most plays per game in the NFL right now?
The Los Angeles Chargers?
Indianapolis Colts.
Well, the Chargers might be number 2, and that's who Jordan Whitehead's facing. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so there are arguments for the other one. So it is a great question, Andrew.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's okay. No, I'm just wrong. The Chargers have dropped to now 11th. The Colts are 5th. And remind me who and Baker's played the Cleveland. Cleveland somehow runs over 71 plays a game. So you know what? I'm going to step down off my high horse and I'll make it a trio agreement with Buda Baker. I still will take Whitehead over Xavier Woods, but that it's a good matchup. And man, how is Cleveland running 71 plays? How are they staying on the field on offense for 71 plays?
PJ Walker. That's how
they're. If you look at their schedule and also how their defense has been playing for the most part, that's what's leading to their offense being on the field so much.
Yeah. My also addition with Jordan Whitehead is the Jets run the second least amount of offensive plays, which means more defensive reps as well. It kind of bumps that up a little bit. But yeah, I think we do have 3 strong options here, and Buda Baker will be the choice of the 3 of us here at least now. And I remember when I said that before anyone else, so regardless. Either way, we had one other question in the chat here, and it's from Nate that I know Ricky has an answer to. Are there any sales going for, this IDP Plus type of shindig we have here? There's other content coming out, new tools coming out. Seems like a good time to be a subscriber. And wouldn't there be a amazing sale available, Ricky?
There's absolutely amazing sale that we launched yesterday. So for our rest of season, we are now offering 50% off. So it's a great opportunity to to see us for the rest of the season, particularly as you're heading to the playoff time frame and all. Take advantage of our tools, our team members, our rankings, our articles. I mean, just a fantastic time to join at 50% off our rest of season offering on our website. So encourage everyone to take advantage of that and come try us out.
And the links to do so obviously are at idpguys.org, as well as in the link of the description below. So always easy to find it. But thank you guys for tuning in to the Week 9 IDP Guys Start Sit show. It has been a blast to be back with you gentlemen here. Be sure to follow Ricky here at RickyRod66. And obviously follow Sean here, Sean Wayans. I know that's not the last name, at Sean8386. Amazing people these guys are, and amazing. Couldn't ask for better co-hosts over here. You can follow me at Michael__Sicoli on Twitter, and obviously follow the IDP Guys on all those social platforms. At IDP Guys on Twitter, so close to 6,000 followers, and honestly would have been there a few weeks ago if I hadn't have to take a little bit of time off. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So be sure to drop the follow, and be sure to look out for all those shows. Waiver Wire show on Tuesday, 2 p.m. live to get all that waiver info you need. We have the Offensive Point show coming out on Wednesdays now. There's so much going on with the IDP Guys here, so be sure to follow, turn on notifications if you want to, because it's going to be a wild end to this NFL 2023 season. So good luck to your Week 9 matchups. Good luck to everything. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday, 11 a.m. EST.